wore her finest gown, fitted, floral and slightly more revealing than what a teacher should wear. She applied her red lipstick twice, sprayed her most expensive perfume, and stared into the mirror, whispering to herself, "This isn't wrong. You understand? He feels the same way. I'm only doing what his wife failed to do. Love him right." By the time Damola walked into the school gate holding Tife's hand, Amanda was already waiting by the classroom door, smiling. "Good morning, Mr. Damola," she said with a smile on her face, a softness in her voice that dripped like honey. Damola gave her a polite nod, trying to keep things brief, but Amanda was not having it. She stepped forward. "Can I speak with you privately? Just for a moment." Damola glanced at his son, then at his watch. "It won't take long," she added quickly, her voice trembling with anticipation. Reluctantly, Damola nodded and followed her to a quiet corridor just beside the classroom block. Amanda turned to face him, her eyes wide, her voice low. "I know this might come as a surprise," she began, "but I've had feelings for you for a while now." Damola blinked, confused as he watched her profess her love for him. "I didn't want to say anything because I respected the fact that you are married, but when Tife told me that you are getting a divorce, I thought, maybe, just maybe, that there's a chance for something real to blossom, something new and even better." Damola stared at her, speechless, as Amanda took a step closer and continued to speak. "I see how you carry yourself. You're kind, responsible, hardworking. You deserve a woman who understands you, who respects you, not one who calls and warns people like a desperate wife, hanging on to a dying marriage," she said to Damola, who smiled and informed her that he felt the same. In fact, he smiled and revealed to her that he was too scared to say anything. Damola informed her that he was traveling that morning, but would return in a few weeks. He took her number and gave him hers as he bid her goodbye and left the classroom. Amanda's heart exploded like fireworks. She stared at him as he walked away, unable to move, as her legs remained rooted to the floor like a tree. Once upon a time, there lived a teacher who fell in love with the father of her student. Her name was Amanda, and she was a grade 2 teacher. Amanda was one of the best teachers the school could ever boast of. Her students loved her so much and could not stop singing her praises. However, everything began to change the moment a new pupil named Tife joined her class. Tife was an extremely quiet boy who talked less but was always eager to learn. The first day he arrived, Amanda welcomed him with open arms. She ushered him to his desk and she was about to get to know him better when his father walked into the classroom to submit some documents. Amanda's heart skipped a beat to see such a handsome man standing in front of her. His name was Mr. Damola. Tall, handsome and soft-spoken, he carried himself with grace, and Amanda could not help but fall in love. She stared at him like a cat about to pounce on a helpless mouse as Damola dropped off his son's documents and bid them goodbye. Amanda could not control how she felt in that moment. She could not believe how in love she was with her student's father. From that moment on, something began to stir in her heart. Amanda found herself glancing at the school gate every morning, waiting for Damola to drop off his son Tife. Every time he arrived, her heart somersaulted like a gymnast as her smile stretched wider than anything that she could ever think of. Amanda began to give Tife extra attention in class, praising his answers and giving him small gifts that she never gave to the rest of the children. Amanda was so in love and didn't know what to do. She began to ask Tife questions that she had no business asking. "What does your daddy do for a living? Is your mommy and your daddy still together?" she asked Tife, who revealed to her that his father was extremely rich and owned several companies in the state. Tife also revealed to her that his parents were getting a divorce. Amanda could not hold back her excitement. The moment he said the word divorce, something inside her clicked. Her heart danced like a drumbeat as she stood there unable to hide the smile that was now spreading across her face. She bent down and rubbed Tife's back gently as she began to speak. "Don't worry, Tife. Change can be a good thing at times," she said to Tife, who nodded in agreement as he watched her return to her seat excited. However, deep in her heart, Amanda was already imagining herself in the picture, not as Tife's teacher, but as his new mommy. She saw herself attending family dinners, answering phone calls, and even becoming Mrs. Damola soon. Amanda doubled her efforts. She packed extra snacks for Tife and even printed fancy worksheets for him alone. During group work, she always made sure that Tife was given preferential treatment. Even when he made mistakes, she would still hail him as the smartest boy in her class. The older children noticed, but Amanda did not care at all. She was in love, the kind of love that had no boundaries. To her, Damola was already hers, even if she had not summoned the courage to tell him herself. One afternoon, while the children were walking quietly in class, Amanda knelt beside Tife and said something to him that shocked Tife to the bones. Tife, I want you to tell your father something for me. The little boy looked up at her curiously as he listened to what she had to say. Amanda smiled sweetly as she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and began to speak. Tife, tell your daddy that I love him, she said, her eyes twinkling as she put her finger to her lips and urged Tife not to tell his mommy. Pass my message across to your daddy, but don't tell your mommy, oh. It's our little secret, she said as Tife blinked in shock and nodded his head in agreement. Tife sat there shocked as Amanda gave him a chocolate bar and tapped him on the nose. Amanda giggled to herself all evening, imagining how Damola would respond when he received her message from his son. Her imaginations ran wild as she wondered if he would smile or even stop by the school the next morning to speak with her. What Amanda did not know was that Tife told his mother their little secret. Mommy, Auntie Amanda said I should tell Daddy something. His mother turned from the front seat, curious as she asked what the message was. Tife, being so naive and young, spilled the beans as he told his mother that his teacher said that he should tell his daddy that she loves him. Tife went on to tell his mother that his teacher told him not to tell her about it. She said I should not tell you, Mommy. That is our little secret, Tife said to his mother, whose eyes opened in disbelief. For a long moment, she did not speak. She simply stared ahead, breathing slowly, deeply, as though stopping herself from exploding. That night, when the house was quiet and Tife had gone to bed, she unlocked her phone and dialed Amanda's number. Amanda answered with a soft, dreamy voice. Hello, is this Auntie Amanda, grade 2 teacher? The voice asked, calm, cold and steady. Amanda sat up. Yes, who is this? This is Mrs. Damola, Tife's mother. Amanda froze, but only for a moment. She quickly straightened her voice, pretending confidence. Oh, good evening, ma. How may I help you? The woman cut her off sharply. Help? You think I need help from you? Her tone sliced like a knife. I heard your secret message. I heard it from my son, who told me that you told him to tell his father that you love him. And worse, you told him not to tell me. Amanda swallowed hard. She forced a small laughter. I think there has been a misunderstanding. There is no misunderstanding, Mrs. Damola snapped. Leave my husband alone. Whatever fantasy you're building in your head, stop it now. Amanda's eyes darkened. She was quiet for a moment before she began to speak. Her voice, low, firm, burning with unwelcome confidence. Ma, with all due respect, your marriage is already falling apart. Your son said you're divorcing his father. Maybe you should stop fighting what is already finished, she said to Mrs. Damola, who sat there frozen for some seconds before replying her with a very calm tone. Amanda, just remember that you are warned, she said as she hung up the call, leaving Amanda in her own thoughts. Amanda could not believe that Tife told his mother their little secret. She sat there wondering what she would do as she decided within herself not to give up on the love of her life. In fact, Amanda decided to deliver her message to Damola herself. After all, his marriage was already on the brink of a divorce. Why should she allow a woman clinging to the last thread of a broken home to scare her away? The next morning, Amanda arrived early. She wore her finest gown, fitted, floral and slightly more revealing than what a teacher should wear. She applied her red lipstick twice, sprayed her most expensive perfume, and stared into the mirror, whispering to herself, this isn't wrong. You understand? He feels the same way. I'm only doing what his wife failed to do. Love him right. By the time Damola walked into the school gate holding Tife's hand, Amanda was already waiting by the classroom door, smiling. "Good morning, Mr. Damola," she said with a smile on her face, a softness in her voice that dripped like honey. Damola gave her a polite nod, trying to keep things brief, but Amanda was not having it. She stepped forward. "Can I speak with you privately? Just for a moment." Damola glanced at his son, then at his watch. "It won't take long," she added quickly, her voice trembling with anticipation. Reluctantly, Damola nodded and followed her to a quiet corridor just beside the classroom block. Amanda turned to face him, her eyes wide, her voice low. "I know this might come as a surprise," she began, "but I've had feelings for you for a while now." Damola blinked, confused as he watched her profess her love for him. "I didn't want to say anything because I respected the fact that you are married, but when Tife told me that you are getting a divorce, I thought maybe, just maybe, that there's a chance for something real to blossom, something new and even better." Damola stared at her, speechless, as Amanda took a step closer and continued to speak. "I see how you carry yourself. You're kind, responsible, hardworking. You deserve a woman who understands you, who respects you, not one who calls and warns people like a desperate wife hanging on to a dying marriage," she said to Damola, who smiled and informed her that he felt the same. In fact, he smiled and revealed to her that he was too scared to say anything. Damola informed her that he was traveling that morning but would return in a few weeks. He took her number and gave him hers as he bid her goodbye and left the classroom. Amanda's heart exploded like fireworks. She stared at him as he walked away, unable to move, as her legs remained rooted to the floor like a tree. Amanda was so over the moon. She could not wait to speak with him later, as she spent her day fantasizing about what her life would be with him by her side. That evening, she arrived home, her heart pounding like a drum as she tossed her handbag on the couch and grabbed her phone. Amanda stared at his number for a second, butterflies filling her stomach as she smiled and dialed the number. "Hello?" His voice came through from the other end of the phone. Warm, deep and soft like butter. Amanda almost melted like ice. She comported herself as she began to speak with him in a calm voice. Their conversation flowed like river, smooth, endless and exciting as they laughed, shared and talked about themselves, their childhood memories, favorite foods, life dreams, heartbreaks and even disappointments. Damola told her that he admired her confidence, and Amanda confessed how he had been living in her mind rent-free for weeks. The connection she felt in that moment was nothing compared to what she had previously envisioned. In fact, it was way better, and Amanda could not help but stare at the ceiling, smiling to herself as the universe was finally aligning to her favor. She arrived class the next morning and could not help dotting on Tife. Amanda began to take pictures of Tife in class. She snapped pictures during class projects and began to send them to his father. Secretly, each picture was followed by a message. "Look how adorable your son is today. He reminds me so much of you. Aren't you both blessed?" Damola often replied with a sweet text, urging her to take good care of his son for him, and Amanda informed him that Tife was in safe hands. She became more invested in him each day, paying attention to his hair, his uniform, his handwriting, everything. Amanda bought him chocolate. She bought him color pencils, superhero stickers, biscuits, and even a new lunchbox with his initials engraved on it. She treated him like a prince, not because he was special, but because his father was to her. During break, she gave him extra juice and made him sit next to her, as she called him special names that she never used for other students. One afternoon, during art class, Amanda asked the pupils to draw what their family looked like. Tife carefully sketched a picture of his mom, dad and himself, smiling and holding hands, but as Amanda walked past his desk, she paused, leaned in and said softly, "Why don't you erase mommy and draw your teacher standing next to daddy instead?" Her voice was gentle, but her eyes gleamed with something far deeper. Tife paused, his eyes widening as he looked at the drawing and then up at Amanda as he began to speak. "Miss Amanda, but my mommy lives with me," he whispered innocently as Amanda waved her manicured hand dismissively. "Not for long, Tife," she said with a sugary smile on her lips as she replied him calmly. "Just draw it, Tife. Trust me, one day everything will make sense to you, she said, and just like a confused little soldier obeying orders, Tife erased his mother and replaced her with his teacher, standing beside his father and holding hands. Amanda watched him draw, her heart blooming uncontrollably as her stomach called in excitement. In her mind, the transformation had already begun. Soon, she would marry the love of her life and live with them as his mother. Amanda had already envisioned what their family would look like. She took a picture of the image and sent it to his father, who she told that his son was already warming up to the idea of them together. Damola laughed as he informed her that he could not wait for their first date. He was returning in a few days, and Amanda could not wait to finally see him again. She walked around her house like a woman already married, humming, glowing, and even dreaming. Amanda sat there excited as a call came through her phone. She picked and realized that it was Tife's mother calling. "Good afternoon, Amanda," she said, her voice steady but cold. "I want to ask you something directly. Why did you tell my son to erase me from his drawing? Why did you tell him to replace me with you?" she asked Amanda, who laughed mockingly and began to speak. "Your son needs stability," she said. "He needs a woman who actually appreciates his father. I'm going to be a better mother than you ever were. So, I don't see what all the fuss is about," she said to Tife's mother, who froze in shock to hear that. A long, heavy silence lingered between them as Tife's mother finally inhaled slowly and began to speak. "So you believe my husband belongs to you now?" Amanda smiled to herself, a dangerous, delusional smile that filled her with so much courage. "He's mine already," she answered boldly. "We talk every night. He tells me things he never told you. Soon enough, you'll be out of the picture completely. I'm advising you, move on with your life, or else I'll make life a living hell for you." Her words were so sharp and cruel as she hung up the call. Feeling so victorious and confident, she began to plan for their date as she got a beautiful dress, beautiful enough to make any man stare. Nothing else mattered. Not her job, not her students, not the fact that she was destroying a family. Amanda was counting days, 10 hours, then minutes, and finally the night arrived. Damola called her early that morning. He sounded warm, gentle, and exactly how she imagined her future husband would sound. "Amanda, I'm back in town. Can't wait to see you tonight." Those words felt like paradise in her heart. She rushed around her house like a bride who was preparing for her own wedding. Her makeup, nails, hair, all done to perfection. By 7:30 p.m., she was already seated at the restaurant that he chose, her perfume thick and sweet as she waited patiently for him to arrive. Minutes later, he arrived at the restaurant with a smile. Damola looked like a glimpse of heaven, handsome, calm, and mysterious as ever. He walked towards Amanda, who almost burst out in tears as he sat across from her and complimented how beautiful she looked. They ate, laughed as Damola held her hand from across the table. He professed his love for her, and Amanda could not believe how lucky she was to have a man as handsome as he was. In her mind, she was already engaged, already wearing his last name, already living in his house. Nothing in that moment could ruin what they were building. The night was simply perfect as Damola volunteered to take her home. They stood up to leave the restaurant as so many thoughts ran through her mind. Thoughts of how their date was going to end, both of them in the car alone, as Amanda's mind went wild. As they walked out of the restaurant, Amanda was confronted with the biggest shocker of her life. Her boss, the owner of the school that she worked in, was standing right in front of her, with Tife's mother, who walked up to her husband and gave him a kiss. Amanda could not understand what was happening. All the while, she thought she was building something with Damola, not knowing that everything was a plan. Damola was so scared of what she might do to their son, so he decided to play along, to gather evidence against her. Their marriage, which she believed was at the brink of a collapse, was in fact perfectly fine, as their son Tife overheard the conversation between his mother and father, who were discussing the divorce of another couple that they knew. Amanda's world shattered in that moment. She stood there frozen as she watched Tife's mother stand proudly beside her husband, hand in hand, a quiet, confident smile on her face as she stared at Amanda, who stood there confused as she wondered what was happening. "What is this? What's going on? She asked as Damola turned towards her and began to speak. Amanda, is this how you go around throwing yourself at every male parent you come across? He asked Amanda, who stood there embarrassed as she wished for the ground to open up and swallow her. Amanda looked at him embarrassed as the school owner stepped forward holding a file in her hand. Amanda, this folder contains a report gathered over the last few weeks, screenshots of your messages to Damola, recordings of your conversation with his son, notes from your inappropriate behavior in class, all of it contained in this document. Amanda's lips parted, but no words came out. You used your position as a teacher to manipulate a child, the headmistress continued. You crossed every professional line, and due to this, you are officially dismissed from my school, effective immediately, she said as she handed Amanda the envelope and stepped aside. Amanda turned desperately to Damola, her voice breaking as tears poured down her eyes. You said you loved me. You held my hand and made so many promises to me, she said to Damola, whose jaw tightened as he began to speak. I was only protecting my son, he said, his voice calm as Amanda could feel the disgust laced behind every word. I could not risk you bringing harm to my son if I rejected you in class that day, so I decided to play along to gather proof of your misconduct. After all the horrible things you did, my son Tife began to have nightmares. He was confused, afraid, and didn't understand why his teacher wanted to become his new mother. Amanda's chest heaved as her fantasies crumbled before her eyes. Tife's mother, Mrs. Damola, took a step closer, her voice steady as she began to speak. You threatened me, manipulated my son, tried to erase me from my son's life. You called me desperate, but look at you, Amanda. You lost yourself, chasing what was never yours. Tears welled in Amanda's eyes as she realized that her fantasies were exactly what it was, fantasies. She walked away alone, her heels echoing against the pavement like the last note of a sad forgotten song. Her makeup smudged, her dreams shattered as she lost everything. Her job, her reputation, her fantasy, and even the man she thought would complete her life. Amanda learned her lesson the hard way, that obsession can never be love, and delusion, no matter how sweet it feels, always ends in destruction. The lesson to be learned from this story is that love should never be forced, taken or built on someone else's pain. True love is mutual, not manipulated. Obsession disguises itself as affection, but it blinds the heart and destroys reason.